Yours was a lot cleaner. Hey, y'all. But you know what else is the cleanest? Here we go. 3, 2. You hear that? That's the sound of football coming your way.
I like how you just tried to sound like Liv Schreiber on the on Hard Knocks, which we'll talk about. But
yes, welcome. No punts allowed. I do want to. I don't know if we brought this up. So we did a live stream a couple hours ago. We've talked a lot already on predicting the AP poll, you and I, which is a lot of fun.
Yes,
long-winded per usual. But we were debating the art of opening up a video, and I was trying in the pod. It just pours out. It's reckless, and who cares? And I mean that in the best possible way. That's just how we do it. But these videos for Bleacher Report, like we want them, or streams, we want them buttoned up. So I was working on how I was going to open up a video, and I was going down the hey y'all genre, and you just were not having it.
It was, to be fair, it was not that I wasn't having it. Your hey y'all is just like not as natural as it should be for, you're not in like mid-season form with your hey y'all.
Hey y'all. See, that was better. I felt like that was
the y'all. You just like, you don't have to go up an octave when you give the y'all. You can do it. I believe in you.
Hey y'all.
You're like, hey y'all.
Well, you were
just
like,
give me your knowledge, like, hey y'all.
Hey y'all. But it's like,
see? That's even better. That was better.
It feels terrible. It feels so depressing. But what's funny as I work through these, like an actor or actress, like working on a line, and you're like, yeah, that's fine. Maybe I should open. Like that was like literally, hey, that's pretty good. I'll start it off. I'm like,
I'll kick it off.
Fuck. Okay.
Well, the best is that also behind the curtain, like there's like multiple people that can hear us just talking.
Oh, yeah. They must stick around in their minds.
They must sit there and just be like, these people are crazy, because we'll talk about all kinds of things, like,
inside
pictures
jokes,
of Lane Kimmy's girlfriends. Yeah.
Yeah, you set me up. You're like, have you heard about Lane's girlfriend? And I'm just like, I have not. That's very interesting information. Like, what am I going to say right now that gets me
no response?
I'm just like, wow, thank you so much for sharing. And on my phone, I'm like, Lane Kiffin's girlfriend that was fun today.
25.
That is, well, again, I'm going to get in
hard
trouble.
launched her on Instagram and social media, so it's not like a secretive thing.
How old's Lane?
On National Girlfriend's Day.
41?
40? No, he's older than that.
I mean, I feel like he was like 18 when he started coaching. Yeah.
He's 48.
Oh. All right. Well, we should talk about other stuff.
Yeah, we should talk about college football, which is just, since we have met last time, this is now a weekly occurrence where big news is dropping between episodes, and we're not even to week 0 yet.
Yes.
So the Pac-12 is officially RIP. Like, you just gotta say that they're still members of the Pac-12 for the next season. I don't imagine that will be a thing. And we'll see where those teams end up. But yes, it is official. The Pac-12 is kind of going its separate ways. And it's so interesting because like so many people have asked me like my thoughts. And like, even when you asked me about Arizona leaving, I was just kind of like, you know what, I just want to get it done. Now that it's done, it is actually very sad. Like
I agree.
I was like listening to the president of Arizona in a press conference and being like, yeah, thanks for the like however many decades. And I was like, wow, like this is like incredibly historic for one thing, but it's just like a change and it's going to impact a lot more people than just football, and football is the driving force behind this. So it is incredibly sad. And I want to make sure that like my reaction to this of like, I just want to get it over with, just do it, whatever, I don't care. It's not that I don't care, it's more just that like this sadness has finally hit me and like I'm taking it all in of like things are changing. But yeah, it's not like the best, it's not the best feeling in the world to have the Pac-12 not be a Power 5 conference anymore.
I will take it out. I'll take it for, you're local, right? So you have like local feelings, geographical feelings. And I think those are important. And I have that same feeling from afar that it is, and what's really interesting to hear other people like coaches, administrators or conference commissioners, like we're trying to figure out how we got here. It's like the hot dog suit meme. Like someone's trying to figure out who did this. And everything is a part of it. The networks are a part of it. ESPN, Fox, the money, the interest, the passion for football, all of it has created this stew. I don't like stew, by the way. I'm not a big stew guy. And college football, to be clear, I'm going to watch and I'm going to love it. And we're all going to fucking love it because we fucking love it. And so not the college football is dying guy, but college football is selling its soul along the way. Let's be clear about this. We're losing pieces of what made it great for us to get into it.
What made it the sport that it is and how popular it is and all those things. It is. It's incredibly sad to watch some of the like press conferences of like coaches explaining the stuff of like the mental health that it takes on athletes. I think it was Eli Drinkwitz in Missouri that was talking about it and just saying like, this isn't easy. This isn't an easy transition for a lot of these student athletes. And it's exciting for fans because in terms of like, where you can watch and how you can consume this, better teams playing better teams. Like, of course, this stuff is all exciting and good, but there is such a big impact on the student athletes. And I think that is kind of getting lost in the shuffle. And also just like the way the whole like Pac-12 situation went down, where it was like, okay, Oregon and Washington basically were like, all right, we're going to dip so we don't get left in the dust. And then it just went from there. But even like the fact that we've heard rumors of the Big Ten expanding with Pac-12 teams, but Oregon and Washington aren't going to see the same like source and revenue from these media deals for a couple of years. Yeah. Until like, I want to say it's till 2030. Like, I think it's like that extreme. And they had no choice. They felt like they had no choice but to do something like that. And instead of taking the initial offer of going, because I believe with everything, I believe that in the conversations with USC and UCLA, there was hey, Oregon and Washington, maybe we float it out there and see what happens. And I think because they turned it down initially, they got screwed on the back end. And that has an impact. It really does. I mean, Oregon, they've got, a guy named Phil Knight that's, gonna keep the school afloat. But still, it's a lot of money to leave on the table to move and to not stay with the Pac-12. That just goes to show you how bad and dire the situation was with what the Pac-12 was offering.
I have thoughts on that, but did you see I almost just tried to drink my beer out of the wrong end? If you are on YouTube, you can go back, and I literally
I did not see it, but I'm going to go back and watch it.
Yeah, it was like, and then
I'm like, producer Rat.
Like, that's weird. That's a first.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. I talked to somebody in athletics in a Power 5 school who said
sources.
Wow. I know. And I
Fancy,
saw this.
So professional.
I saw somebody mention this, and I forget who it was on Twitter saying, administrators said in 8 to 10 years they're all going to get back together. And I have I just wanted to
what
they said that in 8 to 10 years, and I forget who this was, but there was somebody making its rounds, saying that the travel burden is so high that college football will have a reckoning. And and I asked this person that. I said, is that kind of, do you feel that's true? Wouldn't go that far, but did say, football traveling, you travel for 2 days, and you figure it out. But you think about basketball, you think about
soccer,
all the other teams that have to climb the coast now. At Big Ten, I'm talking about right now.
Yes.
And they're like that, the toll of what's going to happen from a emotional and financial standpoint, right, is so large, it's going to be exhausting. I don't think schools are overly excited. You're a basketball team. You're Rutgers. And I know you want to make fun of Rutgers. Rutgers basketball is actually pretty good. So you're Rutgers basketball. You got to go out west. You're going to play USC. You play UCLA. You're going to play Washington, Oregon. You're going to do all this in a week. And then you're going to come home and you're going to be fucking tired. And then you're going to do that once a year. And every team's going to basically have to do this, right? That's how it's going to go. That's a lot. So I think there is a toll that this is going to take on our enjoyment and on the players and coaches and staff, more importantly.
I mean, think about sports that don't have as big of a budget as even basketball.
For sure.
Like women's soccer,
Absolutely.
Tennis, golf. Those sports and that travel they don't fly private.
Yep.
You know, they're having to drive from place to place, sometimes on buses. Like, this isn't going to go well for a lot of the other sports. And I think that's why it's frustrating for a lot of people, is because the driving force is football. And there's a lot of other things that are going to be impacted by that. But I think that person is kind of right in the sense that, like, there may need to be some restructuring of how college athletics is set up in terms of conference and who you play and what you do. And it's,
you know, who's not getting a lot of the money that I talked about is the person that I talked to. It's not like the salaries of these people within the department are soaring.
Yeah.
So coaches are making money and the schools will make money. And when you're Oregon and Washington and it's 2029 and you're going to what, 70 million or whatever the share is going to be, something crazy, like, it'll make sense. But I'm tired of it. I'm just done with it. Like, I think I'm like, this was like the most anticlimactic. I made this analogy on Twitter. It's like a show that you watch. Like, the realignment show was great. Texas and Oklahoma and USC, UCLA. You're like,
exciting.
Wow. And it's good. And like, it's the show you watch. And then they fuck with the plot. All right. They fuck with the plot before the third season. You're like, you know what? I think I'm done. And I'm not done with football. God, I can't wait for football. Week 0, 2 weeks. Holy shit. Let's go. But I'm annoyed by all of this. And I think everybody's kind of annoyed. This is not an original take. Everybody's just kind of at the same stance of like, whatever, man. Like, get it over with and do it. And then, right, you have like, you're in a different stage now. You're in one of like grief, of sadness.
Yeah.
Yes, right?
It's like, the Pac-12 that I like know and loved, and like I also tweeted this, I was like, did someone check on Bill Walton? Because like the Conference of Champions is his baby in his life. And it's been that way the entire time for him. And that's like crazy to think about. There's a lot of like nostalgia that I think is going to be hard. I will say, I hope that Big 12 basketball fans get together and say, hey, we would love to have the Pac-12 do what the Pac-12 tournament does and goes to Vegas. Although it is in Kansas City, it's still very fun. But I think Vegas Big 12 would be very fun to have. Arizona, Kansas, Baylor. Man.
By the way,
I might need to make my way to Vegas for the last Pac-12 basketball a real Pac-12 basketball tournament with Arizona basketball in it. So yeah, it's kind of weird, and I'll go through the motions of the all right, this is the stage I'm at, you know, and share those here openly on the pod. But yeah, it was a weird feeling. Like Friday, like I full disclosure, I was up in the mountains and I got a bunch of texts being like, hey, this is like going down. And I'm like, what? I think you and I were on the phone and I was like, wait, what? It's like official?
It's like, do I need to do anything for this? Like,
you're like, hey, just heads up. Did you see
sport is breaking? And
any thoughts?
One funny aftermath of this is the Big 12 is fucking hilarious. The Big 12 is just this. It's like a mid buffet. Okay, you're hungover as shit. You are hungover, and you walk in, and there's some. Like, okay, French toast. Sure, I'll do that. And then you walk a little bit and they're like, okay, we got fried chicken. And then you walk over there, like, oh, they have shrimp. I don't want shrimp at 10:30, but I'm going to have some fucking shrimp.
It really is.
The Big 12 is this hodgepodge. It is a hungover buffet that I don't necessarily seek out, but I am entertained by. It is weird as shit. And I mean that in a good way. Like, it's bowl eligible, but you're gonna watch.
Yeah,
you are gonna watch.
I saw someone. So we've talked about this at length on the podcast about relegation and how relegation works in like Premier League soccer and most foreign soccer. And I thought it was funny that conversation came up on Twitter after all this happened. It was like, oh, you guys have been asking for relegation. Well, this is kind of what it's gonna look like, and I'm curious how that goes. Seeing how this has all been dismantled, I think for now it's stabilizing, and like we'll play a year with these new teams. But like we talked about before, there's going to be opportunities to buy teams out of their, contracts and move them into conferences and do all of that. it should be interesting to see what the level of play brings about, because I do think the Big 12, obviously expanding this year, but then, adding what I feel is a more premium package now, is going to be interesting to see if those teams stay in it or what the system is going to be moving forward. Also, just to tie a bow, still waiting on the announcement of new conference names. Because, again, if there's a number involved, it needs to be the number of teams in your conference, or you just don't use that. So let's figure it out.
I think we could all, as a podcast, you, me, listeners, figure out a slogan for the Big 12. Like the Big 12, like, fuck it, that's why. Or like the Big 12, like, your drunk uncle's favorite league. Like, whatever, man. Like,
your drunk uncle's favorite league. I kind of like that.
It's just, the Big 12 is just shrugs.
It's
right?
kind of like
shrugs.
It's kind of like an ode to like John Rothstein, who like has the different phrases for like each of some of the big teams.
Yeah, Big 12, better than dead. Okay, like that's the Big 12. So
better than dead.
Better than dead.
I think it'll come to us during the football season, and we can really workshop that. We're gonna rename. We're gonna give all the conferences new slogans this year.
Yes, I love that, and we've compared them to out calls in the past. We could maybe that back up. We've got options here. All right,
yeah.
Well, let's talk about a single photo, and I'm so glad you put this on the doc. Nick Saban smiling. So. He walks out of a presser. I don't know the context other than it was all over my Twitter feed, and he's got one of the most genuine, childlike smiles that I've ever seen on that man's face. And what are your immediate thoughts here when you see him smiling after a fall camp practice and a press conference, which normally, honestly, is very spicy?
Yes. I first of all just loved everyone's reaction to it, because everyone was like, "Uh-oh, this is bad." For everyone. If this man is smiling this way during a preseason press conference, you should be slightly worried. My immediate thought was, hell yeah. I'm so excited. But that, and I was like, wow, he really is. This is the second time I've used this joke, because I used it on our live stream, but he's very much in his reputation era, if you will.
I love that.
I'm going to make a TikTok of college football coaches and what Taylor Swift era they're in.
Oh, that would be excellent. That's actually, I have a funny TikTok. I want to bring that up too later on in the pod. I just had
a funny TikTok.
Yeah. No, a funny conversation that we had about TikTok that just made me feel how old I was. But we'll get there.
Yes, I know what you're referring to. But what were your thoughts of the picture?
Oh yeah, it's like I had literally started researching more on Alabama. Like literally, I was like, okay, I got to reshuffle here. I'm not an Alabama hater. We'll preview conferences. I should say that we're gonna start talking actually about football. But it did make me kind of recalibrate my Alabama expectations, and also maybe in his older age, I don't know if it's possible, he's mellowing out. He just bought a $17 million home.
Yes, that's right. The Jupiter house.
And it looks awesome. It's on the water. And like maybe Saban's just reaching his not coast. The man knows no thing is coast.
No.
But his satisfaction of an appreciation era. But
his chill vibes era.
I love when he smiles. I think he's really behind the scenes.
I love when he smiles.
People love him, okay? And it's not bullshit. Yes, he can be tough. He can be a hard ass. He can be hard ass with the media. But like, you talk to people that know him and they appreciate him and his silly side and all that. So it's a little unnerving for everybody else to see him smiling, but I enjoy it.
Have you seen the movie Just Friends with Ryan Reynolds?
No.
Okay, well, there's a guy in it who sings a song that's like, when Jamie smiles, and that's like, when Saban smiles. Like, all I can think, it sends me miles. Like, all I can think about is when you're like, I love when he smiles.
I do love when he smiles. He's got a good smile. He should use it more.
Well, and what I would say is, I know we've talked a lot about like having wine with Lincoln Riley. Wow, that was a goof.
It's the other one that's come up too.
Yeah.
But
going to Lincoln Riley's house, we've seen the pictures of his house and his wine cellar. I think hanging out with Nick, having a cigar and just 2 beers, at his Jupiter House seems like a cool thing that we should do.
And like, I don't want to talk football, but I will. If he wants to talk football, we'll talk whatever Nick wants to talk about.
No, yeah, exactly. Whatever he feels like talking about. We could talk about, Could
you imagine the stories that man has of life and football and whatever? Like, yes, we should do this.
Yes.
Not even for content, but like,
just to have that. Too. Just to have that memory. Yeah. No, I feel that as well.
And all right, before we dive into the Pac-12 and the ACC. Reading football today, holy shit. Hard Knocks, episode 1. All right, so I am a Jets fan.
Yeah,
I'm a Jets fan. I am
Kramer,
a homer.
Go first.
That was the best Jets television performance of the last 10 years. Okay. They made that like for Jets fans. Like, guys, your lives have really sucked. In this hour is all going to be how great it is and how awesome Aaron Rodgers is. And so, completely biased, I watched it with my wife too, and she's like, wow, this was actually fun. But like, she's watching me, and it's like a kid on Christmas morning just smiling. Like, did you see Aaron Rodgers say that? Like, did you see what he did?
He's happy to be here.
Yeah. Oh my God, Sauce Gardner. Look how long his arms are. Like that was me the entire time. Okay. So of course I was entertained, but this is not a real fair review. Like, as a Jets fan, we've been a laughing stock, and it was all about hope and optimism. And so I was like seeing other people comment on it, like, oh, this was boring. It was, unless you're a Jets fan. Like, I could see that, but I was, again, thoroughly entertained, completely biasedly entertained.
Yeah, I'm pretty critical of these things, and I thought it was a really good episode. I may or may not have shed a little bit of a tear when Sauce got his degree, just because it's cute, and his mom was like, I wanted that. Like, that stuff gets me every time. I was cracking up when Aaron Rodgers was like telling everybody to go say hi to Liv Schreiber. And he specifically, Zach Wilson, when he's like, go say hi. It's like your mom, where like she's like, you're at a birthday party and you're like little, and like there's like an adult there that you haven't seen in a while. She's like, go say hi, like go say hello. Like, that's literally what it felt like. And he's like such like a
voice of God.
Yeah, the voice of God. He just kept saying it over and over again. And like, he's been doing this for a long time, so he has it down. But I also loved a bunch of the players like telling them how old they were when they like started watching him play. I was like 7 years old, like just so good. And like, I want to play till I'm 40, like just funny little like digs. And I think, I found it very interesting. I think can sometimes not love Aaron Rodgers content, but I think this was pretty great. And I think we'll get some good storylines out of it.
Oh, Quinnen Williams. Like, that's the other thing. Like, there are a lot of really interesting people. Quinnen Williams is awesome. There will be Quinnen Williams content. That episode is coming, right? And he just signed a massive deal. They'll do a lot on him. He is hilarious. They have characters. So
they really do.
I know people weren't happy about like Hard Knocks breaking the fourth wall of like bringing in the voice to be a part of it. I thought it was really cool. Like, I think it's neat for a show to stay nimble.
Well, they did it because Aaron Rodgers is obsessed with him. Like, it's not like it wasn't relevant. Like, Aaron Rodgers really wanted to meet him, so I feel like that is what you go with. I
am ready for the Jets to break me, but I'm enjoying. It's been like your
season's going to be very turbulent. Like, trust me, I hope for the best, but it's going to be a
right now
a turbulent ride.
It's been very fun, and I enjoyed it. But of course I did. Pac-12 preview. We are official in talking about football conference before the season begins. That brings me so much joy because we are coming up to the year, and I love how we are starting with the Pac-12. Now, I wrote about this on Bleacher Report. You and I came up with the idea that no matter how fucked up the Pac-12 is or Pac-4, this is an amazing season for the conference. Let your bullshit jokes. I will not have them about the Pac-12. I do not want to hear about the playoff drought. I don't want to hear any of this. This is the most entertaining conference in college football. It doesn't mean it's the best. You can separate the two things.
There we go. Good job.
The quarterback play is amazing. I am ready. And the other part of this is like, it's not just top heavy. Colorado is going to be interesting. Arizona, who's recruiting their ass off, is going to be very interesting. I'm not just saying that. Arizona State, who has a new head coach, is going to be interesting. So from top to bottom, to me, by far the most compelling conference in the country. I just want to start off by saying that.
Yeah, and kind of how we're going to run through these conference previews is we're going to do 2 a week until we hit the SEC. Then the SEC is going to be by itself because it's a lot of conversation in itself. And some would say it means more. Probably not on this pod. We're going to give them a new slogan. But yeah, I think we'll go through like biggest questions, obviously get into some betting, but discuss some of the big stuff that's kind of going on in each of these conferences and things that we're kind of excited to watch. I think even talking today on the predicting the AP poll, just excited to like get some like tangible like ways to evaluate some of these players and teams, because especially in the Pac-12, there's a lot of teams that I think could take a step forward, and it'll be really interesting to kind of watch how that kind of all unfolds.
So the favorite to win the conference, of course, is USC. And USC had an amazing year under Lincoln Riley, and they have their quarterback in Caleb Williams, who, when healthy, is incredible, right? Maybe the best quarterback prospect we've seen in a really long time. I don't like putting the years attached because people are shit, but he's really good.
Yes.
They've lost some players. They've gotten some players. My question to you, and our question really to talk about, is the defense good enough? The defense, because the offense could score. So is the defense good enough to carry them past where they were, which was really fucking close last year? I mean, if not for that hammy that he has, like what happens? It's a fair question. So we start there. What do we do with this USC team and this defense?
I think it's going to certainly be better. I know they've hit the transfer portal, and we talked about this earlier. The fix that everybody wanted was a new defensive coordinator. That wasn't going to happen. Lincoln Riley's been very clear about that. So I do think they get better. It's also like, having guys be around for a year, kind of the embarrassment of that bowl game, and, blowing a lead like that. And that was mostly defensively. So, I think there's a lot of things that need to be fixed, but I think I have a lot of faith in that Lincoln Riley knows what he's doing. And like, I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt. But I think we're going to find out like very quick with USC how good that defense is going to be, just because the Pac-12 is not it's just not an easy slate no matter what.
They went to the portal. Bear Alexander from Georgia was an interesting get. Who is it? Jack Sullivan from Purdue. They went up front, which I think is really interesting. And that's good. You need to do that. Like, this is the second year they've been very active in the portal. They didn't make a change at coordinator, I think, and that's going to be a talking point the moment they are not as good. Yeah. But the thing about it with me, and this is a really interesting conversation as a whole, turnovers. They were number 1 in turnover margin. They were 6th in turnovers overall last year. And when they needed a turnover, they got one. Like on command, especially at those first 10 weeks, it was like on cue, amazing. And it made up a lot of deficiencies. Last 2 games, they couldn't tackle anybody. The Tulane game was like a disaster. A great game.
Yeah.
And so I wonder, and there's no answer to this, like, how does that translate? Now, you can become good at forcing turnovers. Iowa does a lot of things bad, but Iowa historically has done a great job of, the non-offensive touchdowns. This is their brand of football. So you can do this. Like, it's not that it can't be done, but when you rely on this like they did, you open yourself up to trouble. And when you have the type of offenses that you have in this league, I am not that high on this team. I'm really not. I say that relatively speaking. The over-under and win totals is 10 plus 100 to over. So even Vegas is a little trying to figure this thing out, right? Like, how good are they going to be?
Yeah, and you're one injury away from, you've seen what happens when someone's not at their full strength and a big portion of your team. But I think that with the Pac-12 this year specifically, there are a lot of very good offenses, and that was kind of the case last year too. We saw some offenses that we weren't sure about in Washington and Oregon really take the next step forward. And I think it's going to continue this year. But that has to be your number one focus, is getting through the Pac-12, because I mean, yeah, obviously they have Notre Dame and things like that, but that's your road to the playoff. And I think as long as they don't get ahead of themselves and they focus kind of on the task at hand, they can get through that tough schedule. Because if they get through it, even just with a loss and a Pac-12 champion, yes, that's impressive to me.
Agreed. Let's go, because we could talk about USC for an hour.
Yeah.
Let's talk Washington. Let's talk Oregon. So as you get past USC, in what people think is going to happen, you usually arrive to these two teams in some order, maybe Utah. But let's talk Washington. Let's talk Oregon. Which one of these two teams do you have more faith in?
Oregon. And it's because their defense was bad and got better. Offensively, I think they look really solid. Obviously, you said that they're losing their offensive coordinator, so that can play into things. But I think with Washington, the biggest thing defensively last year was that they legitimately gave up like such big plays that just took the air out of whatever momentum they had to win games. And so I think I have more faith in Oregon in that aspect. Now, do I have all the faith in the world that Washington can win the Pac-12? Absolutely. It's just going to depend on those adjustments and how well they play in those close games.
I am going to say Washington slightly.
Wow. Who would have thought that this is where we land?
I know, but like, I'm limping into this one. I like both these teams. I like both these quarterbacks. Can they both stay healthy? When we saw, with Oregon, the offensive line was really good last year. They lose a lot there. Like, Bo Nix has just got to keep it going. And God, he was on such a heater. I think Penix is like, he's that dude. I really do. Yeah. There's so many of their weapons. You're right. Like, stylistically, they're ready to just like, just taking the gloves off, and they're just rolling up their sleeves and like, all right, like, beat us. And you can, and you possibly, but at home, they were a monster last year. And you keep your coordinator in. We mentioned this in the live stream. There was an offer for him to go to Alabama. He chose not to. I think it says a lot about the offense they have. I like both these teams a lot. And I like both these quarterbacks a lot. I think you can make a really compelling, this is like a very punt of an answer. I think you can make a very compelling case for both. And I think you can make a very compelling case for both to legitimately win the conference and even make the playoff.
Yeah, and it's so interesting because I was reading like preview content on stuff to prep for this, and it was just interesting that pretty much everyone is like on the same boat of like, this is basically, people feel the same about these two teams. We're like, hey, we know their offenses are going to be good. What's the defense going to bring? Can their defense be good in the moments against the teams that they need to be good? Like, it's just, they don't need to be great. They just need to be good, It's very much a similar vibe. And I think it'll be a bit of a chaotic season with those two teams.
Okay. Outside of that, underhyped and overhyped. I am happy to take the overhype, and I'm going to say Colorado.
Okay.
I know their win total's not a lot, but for the attention this team has got, like, and this is not a point spread overhype. This is a long friggin' road I think they have. Now, their quarterback, Deion's son, can help, like, close that gap. I think what we've heard about Colorado, what we'll see in terms of just the hype, are going to be very, very different. I'm not sure where you fall on this one or not, like in terms of over.
I would agree with you that that's the overhype. I would say underhype, we can go with Oregon State because I don't think they're getting enough love, because I think...
Yeah.
No, that was the right response. That was better than your what's up, y'all.
Thank you
you're
for
welcome.
Like, I needed
giving
that.
you a compliment. You're welcome. There you go.
Just a little bone throw. Thank you.
But I think Oregon State is going to be even better than they were last year. They were a very surprising team. They almost beat USC. Like, I think, Oregon State's not an easy place to play. I also think, like, there's going to be, this sounds kind of lame, but, like, there's got to be a chip on those guys' shoulders of, like, kind of being like, leave us out of all this conference realignment. Like, watch this. Like, that would be a perfect way to end the Pac-12 essentially as we know it, with like Oregon State showing everybody out. So, I mean, I may sprinkle a little on that. We are big on the sprinkle.
They are 11-1 to win the Pac-12. It is my favorite dark horse future bet that you can make. They won 10 games. They should have beat USC. They beat what? They beat Oregon. They are good. And I guess, you know, what are we going to get out of DJ, right? And what are we going to get? But I don't necessarily know he needs to do a ton. They have a great line. They have great running backs. That is a really fun team. I like, and I love the revenge tour angle, by the way.
Yeah.
I don't know how real it is or not, but fucking,
you know what? Let's go with it. Let's roll. And we can say it started here on this podcast. But we do have to do what everybody wants us to do.
Yes.
Which is pick someone to win the conference. Who are you going to go with as your Pac-12 conference winner?
I'm going to go with Washington, and I'm going to say they just missed making the playoff.
Okay. I'm going to go with USC, and I'm not going to give any playoff prediction.
I mean, fair. Well, you know what?
Because you know what? It's all going to depend on another conference. All right? It's all going to depend on the actually two conferences, the Big 12 and the ACC. Because I think there's teams in each of those conferences that could ruin it for the Pac-12. I think
don't we have to pick a playoff like on this podcast?
Yeah, eventually we can pick a playoff, but I'm hinting the fact that I'm not picking.
Okay, well, okay. Don't
I have to go through the schedules.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay.
I'm not picking USC necessarily to make playoff, and I did before, but actually, you know what? I take that back. I am going to pick them to make playoff.
This is a wild turn of events.
Well, because I thought about it and I looked Texas schedule because I was thinking Big 12. ACC, I don't think Florida State or Clemson get through. Clemson, I think, has a better chance of getting through undefeated, but I don't think they actually do. So I think USC will have there'll be a one-loss Pac-12 champ, in my opinion.
Before we go into our ACC preview, I'm looking on Twitter here because I did believe that I saw a note that Notre Dame is in favor of Cal and Stanford being added as members. This is from Larry Williams, and told Notre Dame as full voting member of the ACC is pushing hard for the additions of Stanford and Cal. That full voting member part is something. Hilarious. I have no opinions on that other than whatever, man. Let's talk football instead. So, ACC preview, not as fun as the Pac-12, not as deep as the Pac-12, but still very,
some
very
fun
fun.
Teams.
Oh my God, yeah, no, huge storylines, but I think the storylines really are at the top. So let's start with Clemson. Dabo, they did not have as bad of a season as we proclaimed it to be last year. It started off rough. They got it together. There were times when DJ looked great, and there were times that after the first half, he got benched or almost got benched, and Cade Klubnik came in. He looked great, and sometimes not great, and they didn't give Will Shipley the ball enough. So they went out and they hired a offensive coordinator that you and I both really like. We've talked about in the pod, in Garrett Riley, and they got all grown up. And Dabo now is saying that I can't all do this shit with people that are in my program. I have to go outside of it, and I think it's a critical point for Clemson.
Yeah.
I really like this team, probably more than I should.
Me too.
And I think, again, Will Shipley's a guy that I'm going to have Heisman money on, okay? So I don't know why DraftKings doesn't have their Heisman odds up yet, or again. But I think Cade Klubnik's going to be amazing. I think we looked too hard at him as a freshman and expected greatness. He literally got the perfect addition. The receivers are okay. That's maybe your part on the offense that you're like, okay, like it's not great, but it's good enough. I like Clemson a lot, and it's going to be hard to talk me off of it.
Yeah, I actually am surprisingly high on Clemson. I know I mentioned that I think USC will inevitably make the playoff, but if there is a team that can do it, I think Clemson is more likely to knock them out than Texas is, if I'm being honest. Because Clemson's schedule is obviously a little bit easier. I think, it's so strange, the narrative around like Dabo. Like he had, 6 college football playoff appearances in 8 years. Like you win 2 national championships. Like he knows what he's doing. He dug his feet in a little bit, like you mentioned, like of not bringing people in that maybe he should have brought in sooner, and not getting creative that way, and not adapting to some of the stuff that college football has thrown. But I feel like he's slowly but surely figured it out and knows that that's the way to, continue and be successful. So I do think they're going to be better than they were last year, and a little bit more consistent in the way that we're used to seeing Clemson.
Now, the odds to win the ACC are fascinating. Clemson is plus 145. Florida State is plus 150. Let's talk about Florida State. So we said it today. They are perhaps the biggest hyped offseason champ. I kind of get it. I think Jordan Travis is great. I think Johnny Wilson at wide receiver is one of the cooler, most unique players when you look at his size. Jared Verse, the defensive end, people were saying that if he left, he would have been a top 10 pick. He chose to come back. Florida State has a lot of mojo, and they were good last year. They still Florida Stated some things. Are we getting ahead of ourselves a little bit with Florida State? Maybe like a smidge?
Yes. I
think so too.
And I love that they play LSU, because I feel kind of the same way about LSU. Like, I agree. Think because both of those programs have returned so much, they have, Brian Kelly obviously can coach. We've discussed this ad nauseum. And I think Norvell is finding his footing and really, showing what they kind of expected of him coming in. And I think we're a little bit ahead of ourselves, because, again, it is so hard to win out in a lot of leagues. And Florida State is still going to have competition. And like you said, you gotta, Florida State needs to not Florida State some of this stuff.
I like them too. It's weird.
Me too. But I do think that we are, and I do think we're getting a little bit ahead of ourselves on this, because some of the offseason conversation is like, this could legit be a playoff team, like, to the point where people are like, yeah, if the Cards end up right and they're the champs of their conference, then I think they could be in.
Their win total is 10. The over is plus 130. 10. It's almost the same as USC's again scheduling. Clemson, the over is 10, and the juice is minus 105.
It's always kind of funny when we look at those totals, because you can see where basically everyone thinks the playoff is going to end up. Yes. You can kind of gather what the conversations are going to be. So, like, kind of like I mentioned, like, I think the Pac-12, the Big 12, and the ACC are always fighting for one spot, really. Because there's always going to be two teams for one of the other, big Power Fives. It's fascinating. This year, hopefully the final year of a team of four, we get an exciting end to the season where the committee has to make a pretty difficult decision based on, teams actually finishing out a season strong.
North Carolina seems as like the next logical threat to be in or win an ACC title. Forget about being in the championship, but being in the title itself. So how do we treat this team that has maybe the best player in college football, Caleb Williams, maybe the best player in college football, but they might. And so what do you do? And then again, like we mentioned earlier, they had a really bad Tez Walker, a receiver that was expected to be like a star for them, denied eligibility for some immediate eligibility. Kind of a big deal. Huge gut punch. Like, kind of could get that around. So that doesn't necessarily decide it. But how do we treat UNC? Because we know, and it's a little different, but similar to USC, they've got this great player, and then what?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a slightly different, because I think USC definitely has more to offer there. But it is like, okay, is Drake May enough? You know what I mean? And also, I still feel guilty for forgetting his name during one of our off-season pods. That was a harsh reality of off-season. But yeah, I don't know that. Yeah.
Yes. Just Drake, let's go, dude.
Yeah. So do we think that that's enough? I don't know that it's enough to be able to win the ACC for sure. But I think, they'll make it interesting for sure.
It's enough to ruin some people's goddamn days.
Yes.
But what does that translate to? They're over under, by the way, North Carolina's 8, and then the over is minus 130. So again, a bit of a difference there. So
so people assume that they're gonna. I honestly think they could really ruin some seasons. And that's how I feel about like Penn State, you know, where like they're getting hyped, but I think they could really ruin some seasons if they wanted to.
Overhyped? I don't know if anybody's over, like maybe Florida State slightly.
Florida State is absolutely overhyped.
But I'm not fully, I don't know. I'm not fully there. And then underhyped is kind of interesting because there's a couple of programs, and I don't know if they're going to win, but I look at Wake Forest and how successful the system has been. You obviously lose your quarterback, but I trust the coach. I trust the process, so to speak. Wake Forest is currently 60-1 to win the ACC. This is not an endorsement to bet that, but it does say like how far they are. They're behind North Carolina State, Miami, and Pittsburgh, and Duke, and there they are. I like that program a lot. I just feel like it's someone we're not talking about right now, and this is a Wake Forest podcast. Just that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. I feel like it's so interesting because we've really all we've heard out of the ACC is the Florida State hype. Clemson is getting back to Clemson in the good way, and UNC has a really good quarterback, and then the rest, and then it's just everybody else. So let's hope
the other storyline, Brom going back to Louisville is very interesting. Like I think he's a great coach. I think he's going to be at home. I think it's a great fit. I think it may take a while. I don't know what's going to happen there, but I know people that I've talked to have been a lot higher on them than I've been. That's one to watch. I will plug today. I just filed a new Locks of the Week, which is Locks of the Week previewing betting content and games of the year. And one of the games of the year that I did preview was Clemson versus Florida State. Clemson is at home versus Florida State. I'm not even going to do what's the point spread, but Clemson was the 3-point favorite, and I liked Clemson in that spot. So to me, that is the biggest game in the ACC this year. It is at Clemson. I think Clemson is going to win the conference. Do you agree with that?
I will agree with that. I think we both think that, you know, Florida State could potentially do it, but I think ultimately Clemson, you know, does its thing.
Or Dabo.
Dabo's dancing.
How does it feel to preview conferences? It feels good here.
Feels good here. I like how you answered your own question.
So, okay. Are we already into random shit? We are. We're flying here. This is good.
We're flying here. 47 minutes later, we're flying.
So
Greg was like, wow, this is we're just flying through this.
It's well, normally if there's wine involved, I'll look down and be like
8 hours later.
It's like, fuck. So after we hang up, I need to record videos for BR Betting. Mm-hmm. And I've done this the last couple of years, and it's a lot of fun. They're 90 seconds, and we're looking at all the stuff that we're talking about, you know, videos on Texas and Alabama, who will knock off Georgia, stuff like that. It's been a blast, and I'll do it in the middle of the season. So we had a meeting. What was this last week? I was 5 minutes late for. I apologize. I was literally stuck in traffic. It's funny who we do the videos with is from the area and knows, you know, the whole traffic situation. Not my style though, even though I'm late for the podcast every single week. But I was stuck in traffic. But we were talking about content for this year, and you and I have been doing live streams and other things we could do with BR and the betting folks who were great. And they brought up TikTok. And there was a conversation that you were having, and that was being had very much without me. And I'm just like looking up, like, you know, like a cat that's like watching a bird, like go from like that was me. Like I felt very old. I felt very old after this conversation, and I bring that up because you bring it up most weeks of my lack of TikTok prowess. And I think the content you're going to produce is going to be amazing if we do it. And also, I just realized like the each year I'm becoming my dad, and I'm not proud of that, but it's happening more and more.
Yeah, to be fair, TikTok is very much my forte. I really enjoy being on the TikTok app. And I think the guys at BR Betting know that. So that was definitely a funny conversation. But I mean, I did have to bring up that you call it the formula and not the algorithm. I'm never, ever going to let that go. I honestly am going to get t-shirts made and pass them around because I think it's so funny. And only because it's like, the most like endearing thing about you is like technology. Even also the when you send in a article and it doesn't have a headline, it's like Paige's headline Jesus. Here, or Paige whatever headline you think, or some bullshit here. Like it's just a classic thing that you've been doing for a while.
They have.
And there's just like some things you just are like, I know my strengths and I'm gonna stick to that. And TikTok and headline writing, not necessarily your strength, and so you lean heavily on me for those things. But that's how this is. It's a give and go. Like there are a lot of things that you're better at than I am. So you know,
I did send you a story idea for next week, and I included like kind of a headline. Now that's the front end. The back end was fucking agonizing, and I hate it. But
you
I
hate
did
it so
try
much. It's okay. It's okay.
Which is weird because I love coming up with ideas. I do. It's one of my strengths, which is like idea generation.
Yeah.
But the actual head
word
and
count.
the hook, I'm like, oh well, sorry, you're on your own.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am not ready for TikTok. I don't know if I will be. My kids are ready. They're asking to have accounts, which of course.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna stay in my lane. My 90-second
I mean, you're
clips.
good at recording the TikToks when I ask you to do them.
Well, I do like one sentence.
Yeah, but that's good. You're starting off slow. Something I did want to talk about is I have not watched the Johnny Manziel documentary, but I will be watching it before we record next week, and we will discuss it. But the thing that I did see going around about it was him talking about how he watched Zero Tape, and it's like, duh. Like, I mean, there was a conversation about that, but it also was like, that just goes to show the lack of like give a shit. I mean, he was just rolling. He was just doing his own thing. But yeah, I'm very interested to watch the full documentary and get the insight of everything Johnny Manziel there, because I do find that stuff to be really fascinating.
That season was, and I saw people talking about this, like, was so unbelievable.
Yeah.
And what he was doing, it was surreal in spite of himself or in spite of all the distractions. And I think, you'll have this strong connection, and then you hear the Zero Film thing, and you just I kind of like get sad. Like, I'm interested to see what emotions I have coming out of this, because that's just like level of fucks given zero. But he had this like these 3.5 months or whatever it was, where he was just. It was surreal.
Well,
it was like
you almost like
tale.
think of like what could have been if he was watching tape, and what, and maybe that was, I mean, we talked about this with the quarterback documentary, where like you take 3 different individuals who are successful at this same thing, and they all approach it in a different way. And like, you just never know, obviously, like shoulda, coulda, woulda, but I am interested to see it. And also it's so strange that like, that wasn't that long ago, and we were having this conversation about like selling stuff and getting paid for these things, and now it's just like look where we are. I can't imagine being a student athlete during that time and like looking at what happens now. I mean, part of it's like good, and the other part of it, I would be like, thank God I'm not involved in any of this, because it's just so much.
On that note, Gene Smith, the Ohio State AD, announced that he's retiring at the end of next year, and people were kind of connecting the dots that this is a guy that's been around a long time, and like he's, there's a lot of people in the sport or around athletics that are just like, shit, this is tough, I'm out. Now, I don't know, he's been around a long time, he's had a really successful tenure, but they asked him about this, and he brought up 2011, so you go back to Tressel and the selling the gold pants, and was just like. And I'm paraphrasing, but like that, that was not right how it was treated.
Yeah.
You look at that, the tattoos and all that shit, and it wasn't that long ago of how we reacted.
Yeah.
And it is hard to believe like that we've made it this far in, a little over a decade. So
yeah, it's crazy.
I found it interesting. I'm actually looking forward to actually watching his transcript, because that's a guy that has been through some shit and has had some really interesting decisions with Urban Meyer and assistants and all that stuff, and a lot of success too. And you wonder if they're seeing things now like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Like I'll pass.
No, totally. But yeah, I'm looking forward to watch that. We will recap it a little bit on this show because I did receive a DM asking if I'd watched it yet, and I was like, oh nope, I got to Hard Knocks today. I squeezed it in between our and just go through that first episode. But yeah, I think look at us leaving it under an hour. Producer Matt should be so happy.
Yes.
Yeah, we've got a lot more preview content coming. We're going to be better about posting when we're going to be live in the BR app. We will make sure that hits our social accounts so you guys are aware of it. We will for sure be live after the AP poll drops on Monday. So look out for that in the BR app. We're also going to give you guys some more information on what the season will look like. We're still probably going to be the week of college football that we know all the things that we will be up to. So, just keep an eye out and
you got a lot of fun shit in the works. Yeah, we have a lot of. If you like the pod, the live streams are definitely they're no cursing, or at least I try not to. I don't think
either of us have let one slip, which is really funny because we do it often on this show, and I never find myself although I will say, I did almost get caught in a really bad comment of reading a comment on Penn State when we were doing the uniform thing.
Well, so the comments are terrible. But it is fun doing the live streams because you and I have done this now long enough, and we have comfort, right? You do these videos with people. This is what I used to do with BR, and like there's people that I know and like, and Felder and Barrettsley, and like we would do it once a year, and you'd get a rhythm. What I love doing the live streams, we get to host these things, and I think even who is working with us are like, wow, that was like really natural. The content may not always be right, but it does flow. Like we've done this shit enough of long-winded pods where we now know when the other's probably going to speak, right? Yes. And that part is a lot of fun too.
Yeah, I've gotten better at not interrupting you, which reminds me there is another TikTok that you and I need to make about interrupting, and it's it's perfect.
Well, I'm in. All right, so we will preview more football.
Yes.
Hopefully the sport does not break. And we will talk to you guys next week.